Hello and welcome to Future Leaders Unplugged. In this episode, we will be discussing Belgium. Belgium today is known as a beautiful country where many different international organizations meet, such as the European Union. Belgium also has a beautiful culture and is very diverse. Belgium is one of the few countries that speaks multiple languages, speaking German, Dutch, and French. But many people do not know Belgium's history and how this beautiful country came to be. After the defeat of Napoleon in 1815, the powers of Europe, who wanted to maintain peace and stability and bring back the old norms, decided to restore the old monarchies of Europe. It was due to this that William I of Orange-Nassau, who had become the King of Denmark after the Vienna Convention, was authorized to annex the southern Low Countries, which are now known as Belgium, into the Kingdom of the Netherlands. However, these areas had many differences, such as language, with Dutch being spoken in the northern Low Countries and a mix of Flemish and French being spoken in the southern Low Countries. Religion. The north was mainly Protestant Christian, whilst the south was mainly Catholic Christian. Economy, the industrial growth of the south and the trading economy of the north. And finances, with the north's heavy debt. To ensure control over Belgium, William I wanted to gain popularity among the elite of the south to solidify his influence in the area. He established a strong foundation with the industrial, commercial, and financial bourgeoisie. So within these circles, there were very few opponents to the king's policies. Opposition began to grow within the Catholic community. Distrust reigned between the Protestant North and the Catholic South. King William I aligned himself with the tradition of enlightened monarchs, continuing policies such as the sale of confiscated church property, state control over the church, and religious pluralism. While a minority of Southern Catholics supported these measures, the clergy and supporters of Rome strongly opposed them. Liberal Catholics demanded freedom of religion. William I's regime was also a typical restoration government, where old and new political currents clashed. Early liberal forces challenged conservative concepts such as a strong monarchy, limited political participation, and the dominant role of the aristocracy. This liberal movement gained more traction in the south than the north. A young generation of educated liberals and liberal Catholics, supported by a few radical Republicans, sought to unite and used the press and large-scale petitions to wage fierce opposition. The government, particularly Justice Minister Cornelis van Manen, responded with harsh repression, undermining any possibility with reconciliation with these opponents. Southern ministers were dissatisfied with this situation, and peaceful dialogue became increasingly unlikely. This climate fueled the rise of a radical opposition, ultimately leading to the revolutionary movement of 1830. The core of the revolutionary movement radicalized in the summer of 1830. It drew support from artisans, service workers, laborers, and the unemployed. The economic crisis of that same year fueled discontent among these groups, with the government and business elites being their culprit. Revolutionaries harnessed anger to incite actions aiming at achieving their political goal: the separation of the northern Low Countries and the southern Low Countries. So, in August 1830, a rebellion inspired by the July Revolution, which happened in France just 4 weeks earlier, broke out against the Dutch authorities in Brussels. The revolt caused the collapse of government control over Brussels, which spread to other major towns in the southern Low Countries. Volunteers came from all over Belgium to support the uprising, and the revolt was quickly picked up by the Belgian Opposition Union. The Union was a joint platform for liberals and Catholic Christians who wanted more parliamentary control, a more extended form of suffrage, and effective freedom of press, religion, and education. The latter two platforms had now been embraced by conservative Catholics. With support of the Church, it's a means to oppose the interventionism of William I in matters of the Church, religion, and education. For this reason, the Dutch army led by King William's son, Prince Friedrich, occupied Brussels on the 23rd of September. This prompted the southern opposition to collectively turn against the Dutch troops. The revolutionaries and volunteers formed the Provisional Committee, which coordinated an attack against the Dutch military. During the night of the 26th September, the Belgian Provisional Committee fought and defeated the Dutch military, forcing them to retreat. This caused the Brussels revolt to spiral into a Belgian demand for independence. On October 4th, 1830, the independence of the Belgian provinces of the United Kingdom of the Netherlands was declared. A provisional government had been formed, and the decision was taken to call for a national congress in order to establish a constitution for the new country. Though Belgium's independence threatened to undo the geopolitical fabric of Europe, the reaction of the great powers was lukewarm, with some of them, such as France, being sympathetic out of wanting to dominate Belgium, and others, like Austria, opposed Belgian independence, fearing it would lead to a revolution in their Italian territories. However, King William's mixture of diplomacy and repression to contain the Belgian revolt caused him not to be liked by the great powers. So, the British government decided to call for a conference of the five great powers at London to deal with the Belgian issue. It convened in early November. The Belgian Revolution was spearheaded by young, radical liberal lawyers and journalists, many of whom aspired to establish a republic and a more democratic regime. However, over time, the revolution's radical goals were tempered as conservative Catholics and doctrinal liberals gained control, winning elections for the National Congress. This moderation helped ease the great powers' concerns over Belgium's independence. A pivotal movement came in November 1830 when the National Congress decided Belgium would become a constitutional monarchy rather than a republic. This decision was critical in securing the great powers' acceptance of Belgian independence. December 1830, the Conference of London accepted the principle of Belgian independence. It stipulated, however, that the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, which had joined the Belgian state to be, would remain a separate state under William I. Over the next year, the London Conference would remain a scene of intense diplomacy and discussion between the Dutch, the Belgians, and the main powers. The major issues were the borders of Belgium and the division of national debt, which included huge Dutch debt from before 1815. The Belgian government aimed high by demanding the whole of Luxembourg and the whole of the province of Limburg. It also laid claim to Zwei's father, Dutch territory on the left bank of the Scheldt. This was in order to secure against a blockade of the harbor of Antwerp. However, the continued Dutch military occupation of the citadel of Antwerp and some fortresses along the Scheldt, which were on Belgian territory, weakened Belgian diplomats' negotiating power. The London Conference's work unfolded alongside the search for a Belgian king. Initially, two French princes were considered. The first one was Louis, Duke of Nemours, the son of the French king Louis Philippe. he was rejected by the other great powers due to fears of French influence. The other one was Duke August of Luxembourg, son of Napoleon's stepson, Eugene de Beauharnais, was unacceptable to France. So eventually, they considered Leopold of Saxe-Coburg. He was a minor German prince who served as a Russian cavalry general during the Napoleon Wars. He had married Prince Charlotte of Wales, heir to the British throne. However, after her death, he remained in Britain and was offered the Greek throne in 1830, which he declined. By spring 1831, he was the top choice for Belgium. Drawing lessons from his Greek experience, Leopold negotiated firmly. He refused the throne until Belgium accepted the borders imposed by the great powers. Simultaneously, he used his influence in London to improve Belgium's terms. In May 1831, the London Conference demanded Belgium accept the January 1831 protocols by June 1st, threatening a blockade of Belgian coast if they refused. Belgian authorities agreed to continue negotiations and offered Leopold the crown on the condition that Limburg and Luxembourg would remain Belgium. The negotiations led to the Treaty of the 18 Articles on June 26, 1831. Key provisions included Limburg and Maastricht. Belgium obtained hope for gaining parts of Limburg, though Zeeuws-Vlaanderen remained Dutch. Navigation rights. Freedom of navigation on the Meuse and Scheldt, which was crucial for Antwerp's economy, was guaranteed. After fierce debates, the Belgian National Congress approved the treaty, and Leopold accepted the crown and was sworn in as King of the Belgians on 21st July 1831. In early August 1831, the Dutch invaded Belgium, easily overwhelming its inexperienced army. The invasion exposed Belgium's vulnerability and forced a French military intervention to save the nation. The Dutch invasion alarmed the great powers, revealing that an independent Belgium was a weak buffer. This led to renewed negotiations at the London Conference. The new Treaty of 24 Articles imposed stricter terms on Belgium. Belgium lost Maastricht and eastern Limburg, but gained the right to build a transit route through Dutch Limburg to connect Antwerp to the Rhine. Luxembourg. The western part went to Belgium, whilst the eastern part, including its capital and citadel, remained an independent Grand Duchy under Dutch control. Belgium's neutrality was reaffirmed, though the great powers no longer explicitly guaranteed its independence. The Dutch king initially refused to accept the treaty, and it took a British-French military action in 1832 to force the Dutch out of Antwerp citadel. The Dutch fully ratified the treaty in 1839, formalizing Belgium's independence. That's all for today. I hope you learned a lot more about Belgium and how it came to be. I also hope you have a great rest of your day. And don't remember to like and subscribe.